Welcome to part number 3 of the world's best radio-controlled car collection. So in the last couple of videos, we did these cars along the wall here, we done these ones, and we started on these ones here. But we're still going to have a look at these along the top here. We've got my X-Maxx collection, some Kratons, mini monster trucks, helicopters, more cars under the bench here, and also we've got a whole load of Banggood specials upstairs. So let's start off with the Arrma Kraton 4S. So the Arrma Kraton 4S, I would say, is the best budget radio controlled car. People do moan at me sometimes saying I shouldn't be calling stuff like that budget, but if you want a proper hobby grade RC car and you don't want to spend something like X-Maxx money or something like that, then I personally believe that this could be the best option. But they've stopped making it, and I have no idea why, because it's so good. So up here we've got the Kraton 8S, and here we've got the 6S. And here we've got a little size comparison, 4S, 6S, and 8S. So the 6S one is probably the most durable once it's been modified. The trouble is, to make it durable, you've probably got to spend the same money what the car cost you, again, in upgrades. The 6S comes with a metal chassis, and the stock chassis, they bend really easily, so you've got to put an upgrade on there, like something like M2C or something like that. The 8S is a lot bigger, a lot heavier, and you need even more upgrades. So I would say the 4S is the best compromise, especially when you consider it's only a tiny little bit smaller than the 6S. And I think what's made this one so durable is its lightweightness. So this car here is an entirely plastic construction. So we've got a plastic chassis, plastic shock towers. These are actually alloy shocks on here, but they're upgraded. The stock ones are plastic. They come stock plastic drive shafts, but we've put some metal hot racing ones on there. We've got RPM arms, JX Eco Boost Turbo, custom RC upgrades, heavy duty motor mount. Then we've got wheels and tyres that come off of the 4S Outcast, and a bumper which I have no idea what it is. I actually got this car used from Paul Fulton. Now I know I said you can't get this car anymore, but Arrma do make some fairly similar ones. So we're going to show you those a little bit later. Next up we have the Kraton 6S, which is actually one of the most durable RC cars ever to be made, but not in stock form. They need quite a lot of modifications. So this one here's got many upgrades from M2C racing, custom RC upgrades, RPM. So in stock form, these things bend chassis like no one's business. A couple of jumps, you land them slightly wrong, and they're just going to bend. So this is an M2C chassis, and they still slightly bend, but nothing really to worry about. I don't think I've ever had an RC car with a metal chassis where the chassis hasn't bent. And the chassis on this one here is probably a couple of years old now, and as you can see, we've got a tiny little slight bendage, but considering the amount of abuse that it's had, it doesn't really matter. Also, we've got M2C chassis braces, custom RC upgrade servo mount, M2C shock towers, M2C hinge pin holders, M2C standoff, custom RC upgrade knuckles, front and rear, M2C stiffener thingamajig that goes on there. This is actually a chassis brace that I got from somebody on eBay, and I've forgotten who it is, but if you look at the video where I put this car together, all the upgrades are listed in that video. Oh look, and we got a custom RC upgrade steering rack, AGF servo, and stock electronics. So because the 6S car had great potential, but had many weaknesses, they came out with a solution. The Kraton 6S EXB. EXB stands for Extreme Bash. So this one here is almost stock. We've just done a couple of upgrades. We've got a custom RC upgrades, upper chassis brace, custom RC upgrades, front hinge pin holder, and underneath we have one of Radical RC's bash bars from Dean. Now in stock forms, these things are an absolute tank. Although the chassis did bend relatively easily. They do say 70-75 T6. I don't fully believe it because it bent too easily. But with the bash bar on there, it's made it virtually unbreakable. Also in here we have an AGF servo. The EXB in stock forms comes with heavy duty shock towers, heavy duty suspension arms. Oh, actually, in this one here, we put a big power system in it. So this is an 8S motor out of one of those, and the Max 6 ESC. So there you go. In my opinion, one of the best RC cars that money can buy. And straightness test. Oh guys, it's not bad. A tiny little bit on the front here, look, but barely nothing. That is one of the best that I've seen so far. And throughout this video, we're going to straightness test each chassis with that straight edge. We had this car out in the last video, so let's quickly just see how straight the chassis is. Yeah, it isn't. And the Outcast? That's not bad. A tiny little bit here on the back, look, but really not very bad at all. Next up, let's have a look at the big boy, the Arrma Kraton 8S. It's difficult to show off the size of some of these cars on camera, guys, and when I take these out to like Art Raceway and stuff like that, a lot of people always comment and say, it's so much bigger than it looks like it is on the video. So this is the EXB version of the standard Kraton. I've got a standard Kraton up there. Well, it started off as a standard Kraton 8S. We did many modifications, so we're going to have a look at that in a minute. So on the EXP version, they gave it a thicker, stronger chassis, thicker shock shaft. Not really sure what else they did, although I'm sure they probably did do some other stuff. So I'm running a Hobby Wing Max 5 ESC, so we can run this thing on 8S. We got a TP motor. Look at the size of it, bigger than the fist. Now this chassis bent really easily. A couple of little fairly mildish jumps, that chassis was bent. So I straightened it out, put on one of custom RC upgrades, chassis stiffener, bash bar things. So now let's have a look. Yeah, slight bendage, but guys, really, that's not bad. We've got a power HD servo in there, not the fastest, but it's fairly cheap. All in all, a very good car directly out of the box, but you do have to upgrade the chassis, either with a M2C chassis or with one of Dean's bash bars. And there's always a big debate online, what is better, the Arrma Kraton 8S or the Traxxas X-Maxx? Now this comes down completely to personal opinion. The X-Maxx is hands down my favourite one. From my own experience, it's been a lot more reliable, a lot easier to work on, a lot cheaper parts. Now it's got a much higher centre of gravity, so it's not quite as stable, but I think that all adds to the fun. You can drive it up on two wheels, you can backflip it, you can do all your stunts, you can drive it on two wheels on the side. I mean, this to me is the ultimate RC car. And I know many people disagree and they prefer this car. Even people in my own group like Martin, they prefer the Kraton. End of the day, the best RC car is whichever RC car puts the biggest smile on your face. It doesn't matter what the next guy has, it doesn't matter what the next guy thinks, it's whatever makes you happy. And the X-Maxx makes me very happy. And don't get me wrong, for the size and the weight of these Arrma rigs, they do take an absolute punishment, but just from my experience, nothing really beats a stockish X-Maxx. All that you really need to do on X-Maxx is to make them strong. I'm going to show you in a minute. We'll go into that in a minute. And here we have my first Arrma Kraton 8S. And this one here started out as a stock version 1. And I upgraded it with quite a lot of stuff. And I'm getting out of breath trying to lift them up and down from up that wall there, guys. These things are heavy. So we've got the backflip tyres on here from the Outcast. We've got a Proline Racing body shell. We've got an XLX2 power system. And oh my God, guys, how much power is this? It's just absolutely insane. We've got custom RC upgrade chassis braces. We've got an M2C main chassis. We've got drive shafts from, I can't remember. If you look back through the earlier videos where I built this car, you'll see a list to all the parts down below. I'm pretty sure they're from Scorched RC. I can't really remember, guys. I've forgotten. We've got North shocks, M2C hinge pin braces, M2C motor mount, M2C ESC tray, Spectrum servo, RPM arms, a Bigfoot Customs motor wedge. It goes underneath the motor, stops it flexing and snapping off at the mount or whatever. And now for a chassis straightness test. Yeah, little bend in there. I think metal chassis car, guys, especially when you're extreme bashing them, you cannot stop the chassis from bending. I think it's just a physically impossible thing. Then we've got heavy duty turnbuckles, and I think these are also from Scorched. Also, big shout out to Bad Touch Breakers that supplies all the M2C stuff here in the UK. So yes, lots of money spent on this rig, but now it is absolutely epic. And I wish I could take it out more often, but when you've got so many RC cars, then you kind of got to pick and choose, and they've all got to take their turn. Next up, we have the Arrma Outcast 8S. It's pretty much the same car as the Kraton, but it's a bit shorter. So this here is actually the standard edition. They do an EXP version as well, but this one's the standard one. So I've had to do my own upgrades to it, because in stock form, the chassis bent really easily. Oh, yeah, we've got to repair that. M2C actually make a little metal mount there, so I'm going to have to get myself one of those. We've got M2C motor mount, and it did actually slightly bend, and I think it's going to need one of those Bigfoot Customs motor wedges, and that's going to stop that from happening. We've got custom RC upgrade chassis braces, M2C hinge pin holders, M2C heavy duty drive shafts, and they actually start off at the same thickness on the ends, but then they taper up to a bigger thickness in the middle. It makes them a lot less likely to bend. Also, we got M2C heavy duty shock shafts, and look at the size of these pistons, they're a lot wider than normal. We've got a Hobby Wing Max 5 combo, AGF servo in there that's got loads of power, and we've got RPM arms. All in all, an absolute tank of a car, but in my opinion, still not as tough as the mighty X-Maxx. Oh, and I almost forgot, a chassis straightness test. Yeah, little bendage, but it's pretty good. The shorter wheelbase cars, they're actually less prone to bending. Oh, we got more breakage. Next up, we have the Traxxas Rustler 4x4. So the two-wheel drive Rustler has been around for many years, and relatively recently they came out with a 4x4 version. I always said a 4x4 one would be absolutely epic, and they made one. So we have the same clipless body mount system, and I've actually had to modify this one a bit because come on, off you come. It does pop off on the front quite often, so I put a nut and a bolt through there, bit of fuel tubing, so it wedges it underneath more. It just makes it a bit more tricky to get it off. So I think this thing is almost entirely stock. We've got some Banggood special aluminium drive shaft. Or steel, I think. I don't know, God knows. Stock 3S power system. We've got a plastic chassis, which I did break in its first run, actually. I hit a metal wall flat out by accident, and it snapped it clean in half. But one good thing with plastic chassis, they're cheap, they stay straight, and they're either broken or not broken. People say, how does it compare to the 3S Arrma lineup? I would say definitely better quality, but it is a lot more expensive. So the Arrma probably would go for better value. This would go for better quality, although the Arrmas do have better plastic drive shafts. These ones on here, they're not that great. Next up, we have the Arrma Felony. I never really thought that on-road RC cars would be much fun. I always thought that they're a little bit boring. And when Arrma first came out with the Infraction, I kind of reluctantly got myself one, but oh my god, how much fun. I never realised you could have so much fun with an on-road RC car. So then they came out with a Felony, and I wasn't originally going to get it because it is pretty much the same car as that. But a lot of you guys in the comments did say to get one, so I did. And here it is. So it's almost the same as this. We've got wider tyres on the rear, obviously a different body styling. We've got different diff ratio in the rear to make up for the bigger tyres. No handbrake, and the version 2 of that comes with a handbrake. So we've got a 6S power system, metal chassis. This car has actually been to the skate park, and no idea if the chassis is going to be straight or not, and yeah, little bendage. So next, let's have a little look at the Traxxas XO-1. So the XO-1 is roughly the same size, and this is actually the world's fastest ready-to-run RC car. It will do 100 miles an hour straight out of the box. So although this car is really epic, it is kind of getting dated now. So this is, I think it's over 11 years old now, and it still looks really cool. But when you compare it to like the Arrmas, it definitely feels a lot more dated. It's not quite so stable, it spins out a lot easier, it just doesn't feel as nice as the Arrma platform. It comes with a great big castle power system. We've got all these epic aerodynamics underneath. Slick tyres, it's 4-wheel drive, and I did say in a video, last year I think it was, if we hit 1 million subscribers, I'm going to send this thing to the moon. So we're going to get this car up to 100 miles an hour, hit a ramp, full speed, and just see what happens. So subscribe so you don't miss it. Next up, we have the Arrma Mojave Extreme Bash. It is a very epic RC car, and many people try to compare it to the Traxxas UDR. A lot of people say which one's better, and in my opinion, I prefer the UDR. But in many other people's opinion, they prefer the Mojave. So the Mojave is a lot more durable, it's faster, it can jump higher, it can jump further. But when it comes to all-out fun, I think I've just got to give it to the UDR. The UDR is a lot more realistic. We've got more realistic suspension on it, look. When you record this into slow motion and you play it back, the way the suspension moves on this, the way it handles with that locked-up rear diff, it's something really special. That's not to say that this isn't special, but that is one of my favourite RC cars. So is that. That, not so much. So we got a custom RC upgrade, chassis brace at the top, Hobby Wing Max 8 combo, Power HD servo, Scorched RC titanium chassis, which is absolutely epic, and it's hard to tell. We've got suspension arms in the way. Hold on. I don't know if you can see it, but look. Perfectly straight. Also, we got M2C locking wheel nuts, which are an absolute must on this car. The wheel nuts always come loose. These double ones, I've not had them come loose at all yet. So you might be wondering, why do I not like it so much? It's not that I don't like it so much. It's just that I can't fully make my mind up on it. If I want something to be really realistic, I'll go for the UDR. If I want something that I can really beat the absolute hell out of, I will go with the Traxxas X-Maxx, or with like one of the 6S Arrma Kraton rigs. This one here is something more like in the middle. A bit of a jack of all trades, master of none. It's not quite as durable as like a Kraton, and it's not quite as realistic as like a UDR, but it sits somewhere in the middle. So if that is something that you're after, then I can't fault it. I would probably give this car a 9 or a 10 out of 10, but personally, I just can't fully connect to it. And if you look at the inside of the body, I've done this to a lot of my RC cars. I put some drywall tape on there and shoe goo. It makes the body shells last about 10 times longer. Next up, let's have a look at my favourite RC car of all time, the Traxxas X-Maxes. Now, I've got 3 of them, well, actually 4 of them. That one up there is my first one that I ever had. The first video on this channel was actually of this RC car here. Then this one here was my second X-Maxx when they came out with the 8S version. That's that one there. And then that one there is actually almost stock. I bought that one when I got the Arrma Outcast 8S because I wanted to do a fair sort of strength comparison. So I thought I'll get a stock X-Maxx brand new, stock Outcast brand new, and then it's more of a fair comparison. This one here is kind of like a replica of that one. That one there's a beta. That one there's more of a shelf queen, and I use it for water crossings. This one here's got the paddle tyres on there. We've got the stock motor, but all the other upgrades, it's almost the same as that one there. Let's have a look at that one. This one here's stock, so I'm not going to bother showing you. It's the same as that one there that Stempy's got. So this one here is probably the RC car that's been featured the most on this channel, and it's in a bit of a need of a rebuild. It's definitely seen better days. The body shell's a Pro-Line body, and I don't think they're that good. The stock X-Maxx body seems a lot stronger. I've done all the drywall modification on here, look. And I think on the first or second outing, that happened. So I'm running the motor out of the 6S truck. It's the same motor that comes with that one there. But then I'm running it on 8S. That gives it a lot more power, a lot more speed, but it does run a lot hotter. The gearing that I normally run on this is like a 17 pinion and a 50 spur. We've got a Max 6 ESC, AGF servo, missing bumper, hot racing steel spur gear, RPM rear hubs, although the X-Maxes now come with their own heavy duty rear hubs, so you probably don't need them. We've got the Sen hinge pin modification, and that adds loads of strength to these X-Maxes. We've got these little collar things here that go over the drive cups to stop them from breaking. We've got a Trill aluminium diff cover. I'm 50-50 on those. They're very good quality. They don't weigh that much, but I'm not really a fan of adding alloy to plastic chassis cars. The trouble is, when it's a plastic chassis, and I think this is why the X-Maxx is so tough, it's all designed to flex. If you change something and put aluminium on, you're now stopping that part from flexing, and it's going to move the load along to somewhere else, and it could actually weaken it. So far, they've been good. Aluminium put into the right places can sometimes work, but often you add some alloy and you make it 10 times worse. So this so far has been good. The little cover here is also a Trill cover, and so far that's been good, but I've never had an issue with the stock one. I've got the Trill Servo Saver top plate on there. I wasn't originally going to fit all this stuff, but they sent it to me, so I thought I might as well put it on and see what happens. And if you have a look at this here, look, it's actually broken. It's snapped right across here, look. And the bulkhead's broken here. I think what happens is when you break the bulkhead or the shock tower, it puts all the load onto this steering plate here, and as you can see, it's still broke. So in my opinion, the only upgrades that are essential to do on an X-Maxx, I would say, in my opinion, are the Sen hinge pin braces. If you haven't got these Sen pins in here, what happens is when you crash, it puts all that load onto just one little part of the arm. When you've got it pinned together and a nut and a bolt on there, it shares the load over both sides and it gives it double the strength. And ever since I've been doing this modification, I almost never break any arm. The second upgrade that you absolutely have to do is the steel gears. So I'm running a hot racing spur gear in here. You can also get GWS or GDS or whatever they are. The stock gears in here, they just tend to explode. But other than that, the truck seems almost bulletproof in stock form. If you've got one of the older X-Maxes, you might want to fit the RPM rear hubs or maybe the Traxxas upgraded heavy duty ones. On the front here, I've got the Trill Racing ones. They are a little bit heavier than stock. They are a nice upgrade. They are alloy, and don't know yet. They've been good so far, but I'm still testing. I think the key to the X-Maxx being so strong and durable is its lightweightness and its flexibility. The trouble is with adding too much alloy, you take that flexibility away and you make the truck heavier. A lot of people will disagree with me on that, and that's fine. It's only a hobby. Whichever way puts the biggest smile on your face, that is the way you're supposed to do it, and this is the way that I do it, and this is the way that puts the biggest smile on my face. So you can do it your way, but don't argue with me. So next up, we've got these little mini monster trucks. I've built 3 of them. I'm only going to show you one of them because, they're pretty much similar. Actually, sorry, I'll show you all of them. So this one here was the first one that I built. This was a... So I robbed the tyres off one of these things here, and I took the chassis off of one of these things here. And then I took all the axles and gearbox and everything out of one of these things here. And what we ended up with is a pretty realistic little scale monster truck. So we've got front and rear wheel steering, 4-link suspension, front and rear, just like on a real monster truck. The chassis looks super realistic, the body looks super realistic, the wheels and tyres look super realistic, so do the axles. And I actually got the original idea from Tom Lee. So this one here was my next carnation. So this one here is slightly longer wheelbase, and I've added a brushless motor. I want to actually do another video on these guys. They're so much fun. I want to build a little Monster Jam little track somewhere and have a few more of these. So this one here is the Megalodon, And this one here was a budget build. A lot of you guys wanted to build one of these, so I've done a build video, but it works out quite expensive. So some of you guys wanted a more budget-friendly way of doing it, so I came out with this one here. It's only front wheel steering. It comes with a stock motor. It comes with a crawler. It's still fairly capable, and it's a lot cheaper. These two cars here, these Lego cars, these are actually radio controlled as well. We've done a little Destruction Derby video on these a couple of years ago. Here we have the Kyosho, forgot what it's called, but it's got a Mercedes body. I'm just doing an unboxing and a review video on that car, but we have a little transmission issue, so we're going to get that fixed, and then we're going to carry on with that review. Here we have a Kyosho Mini Z little mini crawler, and this is actually not mine, it's Mick's, and I haven't run it yet, and I think we should very soon. So next up, let's have a little look at my helicopter. So this one here, it's an Align T-Rex 450 Pro. I'm not going to go too much into these helis because I don't want to bore you guys, but this is like a little semi-cheapo heli, good for learning. You can smash the hell out of it, and it doesn't cost too much to fix. Next up, we got the Align T-Rex 600, and this one's a nitro. So it's got carbon fibre blades, it's got a carbon fibre boom, carbon fibre chassis, big tune pipe. Here we have the OS 55 engine, carbon tail fin, carbon tail blades, and it's fairly big, but the next one's bigger. So this one here is a Zap Goblin 700 Kraken, and look at the size of that. For a stunt helicopter, this is actually pretty mahoosive. And by the way, guys, all these helicopters, you can fly them upside down. You can do all crazy TikTok stunts with them. You can cut the grass. There's a couple of videos on this channel of me trying to do it. Fairly successful, actually. I haven't really broken a big one yet in a few years. So these Goblin helicopters are definitely of a much higher quality than the Align helicopters, but they are a lot more expensive. So the same as on the Align, we've got carbon fibre blades. We've got full aluminium head. Off. So you've got carbon fibre canopy, carbon fibre upper frame, carbon fibre lower frame, more carbon fibre, more carbon fibre, more carbon fibre, more alloy, KTS servos, Scorpion motor, Hobby Wing ESC, and a Icon control box. And it runs on 12S lipos. Let me show you. Let me show you. There we go. It runs on one of those, and just to get a comparison of the size of it, an X-Maxx would run on this, and the Goblin runs on that. Also, in a minute, we're going to have a look at the Raminator, and also these petrol RC cars that we've got up here. Oh, and look, we've got a Summit, and there's that Kyosho thing. It's actually an Inferno GT2 race spec. So next, we have the Goblin 580, which is almost the same, but a little bit smaller. And I personally actually prefer the slightly smaller size. It's a little bit more nimble, and it's not quite as dangerous. Ugh. These bigger ones get a little bit scary. So it's almost exactly the same inside, just a tiny little bit smaller. We've got Hobby Wing ESC, X-Nova motor, Expert R2 servos, a brain controller thing, which is actually exactly the same as the Icon. Another Expert servo, and I think it's my favourite RC helicopter that I've ever flown. And then here we have the Mini Goblin. This is called the Havoc Fireball or something like that. But look at the size of it. Compared to these ones, it is tiny. So we're running the Brain fly-by-us again. Brushless direct drive motor, so there's no gears, look. It's directly driven straight on the motor. Plastic chassis, fiberglass boom, plastic skids. But the good thing with this is that they're really cheap to crash. It's also got carbon fibre blades. This thing is an absolute animal. It's so lively, it's so fast. It's actually quite scary. And all those helicopters, I use them all on this here, a Spectrum DX8. And while we're here, look, we got this tiny little mini crawler. I actually built it from a kit. It was a Banggood special. Really, really tiny. And I think it's called an Orlando or something like that. And while we're talking about things that fly, here is my E-Flight Extra 300. And you can do all your knife edges with it, loop-the-loops, rolls, upside down, all that stuff. And then you can do what I did with it and crash it as well. Here we got a couple of Banggood boats that we still have to unbox, so we might wait for the summer for that because it's getting cold now. Here we have the Project Nitro 4-stroke radio-controlled crawler. Last time I touched it was probably about 2 years ago. Look at that little 4-stroke engine in there. It does work, but it's geared too low. It's way too slow, so I need to get this out again. A lot of you guys keep bugging me about it, and I will get it out again. Just don't ask me when. People always complain, oh, you said that you'd do that 2 years ago. It's like, I always end up doing it, but when is always another question. The same as that. I said when I get 1 million subscribers, I'm going to jump it to the moon. And we got 1 million subscribers a few months ago. I haven't jumped it to the moon yet, but we are going to do it. There's no time frame on it, but we are going to do it. Next, let's have a look at the cars that we got under the bench. And first off, we have the version 1 Traxxas Maxx. And this is one of the toughest RC cars that I've ever used. They're quite expensive, but for good reason. So also on the back here, we have the clipless body. We've got a giant, great big servo, which is actually the same size servo that you would find in an X-Maxx. 4S brushless system. This one here has actually got the wide max kit on it that makes it a little bit wider. We've got metal drive shafts, and we've got these metal C-hub things here. In my opinion, these metal C-hubs are the only must-do modifications. The stock ones, they're relatively weak. People often say, what's better, the Max or the X-Maxx? I would say they're pretty much the same, really. It all depends on size. You know, if you've got space to run an X-Maxx, I would say go for the X-Maxx. If you haven't, the Mini-Max, well, it's a Max, but I'll call it Mini-Max, it's just as good, but just a bit smaller. I prefer the X-Maxx. So while we're talking Maxes, let's have a look at this brand new Max. This one here is the version 2. And it comes with the wide max already installed. The chassis is around about 20mm longer. We've got these different tyres on it, which I actually much prefer. Other than that, it's pretty much the same as the old one. Just a bit longer, a bit wider, and different tyres. Next up, we have the Traxxas Revo 3.3. And I've only just recently done a video on this. This one here is quite special, so I'm not going to go into it in full detail. Just go back a few videos and you'll see it all there. So this thing's nitro, but we made it a little bit more user-friendly. So they come with electric start. Normally, you put like this little one thing on the back and it makes it start. But Jason from Redfin Models, he modified it. He put all the electronics inside the box. So now we can... Where's the controller gone? So all you got to do, flick that switch and the engine starts. Also, I've got the RPM true track conversion. These normally come with these toe link things on the back, and I hate those on RC cars. Every RC car that I've ever had that's got those silly toe links on the back, they always break. So RPM have done a conversion to get rid of them. The engine... I don't know, there's a lot of mixed reviews of this engine online. Some people hate them, some people love them. I can't really get on with it. I'm not really that good at tuning, but Mick Craddock had a go on it, and even he couldn't really properly tune it. It just doesn't seem to run quite right. So I'm probably going to upgrade it. I don't know what to yet. Maybe an OS, maybe a Dynamite. I don't know, guys. Let me know in the comments. But it has to still take this motor. I still want to be able to use the electric start. So we've got AGF servo in there, and that's for the steering. And we've got a JX Eco Boost for the throttle. And we've got a Robinson Racing steel spur gear. Next up, we have the Kyosho USA-1 Nitro. And guys, what a beast. This is the most fun that I've had in an RC car for a long while. It's actually one of my favourite RC cars now. It's not a hardcore basher, and I don't think it's really supposed to be. But for scale bashing, absolutely epic. This one's the Nitro version. We've got the realistic USA-1 body on it. Nitro engine with a 3-speed transmission. We did actually strip that gear in the last video, so we've got to get that working again. So Mick actually tuned that engine for me, and it's got to be one of the best running Nitro RC cars that I've ever had. It ticks over all day long. It runs nice and cool. Plenty of power. All in all, guys, I just absolutely love this RC car, and I'm tempted to get a second one, to have one for a nice one, and have one for bashing. Nice bashing, not abusive bashing. So down here, we've got a few Banggood specials. Upstairs, we've got lots of Banggood specials. I think we're going to leave those for the next video. So next, in this video, let's have a look at my biggest RC cars, which is the Primal Raminator. That is the world's biggest RC car. And then up there, we've got some petrols. So let's first have a look at the Raminator. This thing, guys, is absolutely mahoosive. The camera doesn't do it justice. Hold on, I'm going to try and pick it up now to get it in frame. Look at that. Look. Just look at the size of it. That's just ridiculous. When people see this car in real life, they're like, what the hell? How can it be so big? They said they've seen the videos, and then when they see it in person, they're like, oh my God, it's like double the size. So guys, however big you think this looks from the video, it's about double the size. So the Raminator is actually fairly realistic. It's very similar to a real monster truck that we're building. By the way, guys, if you haven't seen this, we are attempting to build the world's best monster truck. Here's the tyres that are going to go on it. We've got a big block, alcohol-injected Chevy V8 engine, custom-made axle housings to make it wider than a normal monster truck. And hopefully, we should have it up and running in the next few weeks. But anyway, just like on a real monster truck, the Raminator has 2 solid live axles. Let's stand it up so you can have a look. So you've got 2 solid live axles. You've got 4-link suspension, and that is exactly the same as on the real ones. We've got the 2 lower links here and over there, and then we've got the 2 upper links here. So on monster trucks, we actually run the brakes on the pinion on the end of the axle. And that is exactly the same on the Raminator. The real monster truck has front and rear wheel steering. So front steering on the steering wheel, the same as on a normal car. Rear steering, it's on a toggle switch. So on the Raminator, front steering on the steering wheel and rear steer on a toggle switch. And I actually use the exact same controller on these mini grave diggers. So they've got the rear steer on there as well. The rear steer was actually a modification. It comes as an upgrade kit. When you get this, it comes with just the front steering, but you can buy a kit so you can do the rear steering too. In here, look, we've got the AGF servos. These are the 78 kilo versions, and they're a lot quicker than stock, a little bit more torque than stock, but I think you could do with a little bit more torque. And AGF have actually got some 100 kilo servos, so I think I should probably give those a go. The engine in there is a 50cc. It's a little bit lazy for the size of the truck. A company called Taylor RC make a 80cc race engine for it, so I think that is what I'm going to get very soon. But first, we need to get the big truck finished. Here we have the Traxxas Hot Rod, which has only just came out. And I'm filming a video on this at the moment. I've still got to finish the video, and we've done a few upgrades on the inside, and I'm not going to show you just yet, because I don't want to spoil it for the final video. Oh, and check this out. Trill have just sent me these alloy wheels, 1.9 bead locks. Check that out, guys. So they're going to be in a video soon too. Next up, we have the Losi 5T. This one here is also a petrol-powered RC car. I think this is a 23cc engine. It's actually fairly pokey for a stock engine. So this thing is fully stock at the moment. We've got stock servos in it. They're a little bit slow, so we may well upgrade those. I might even take the servos off of the Raminator and put them into this and then get the 100 kilo servos for the Raminator. Oh, we've got a tune pipe on it. I've modified the battery tray so it can take a standard size LiPo. And it actually takes an insane amount of abuse. We took it to the skate park, hit the jump flat out, and it took it, and it took it, and it took it. But eventually, we did break it off across here, and we did bend the metal chassis. Surprise, surprise. Next up, we have the Rowan, whatever you call it, Baja. This is a Banggood special. It's dirt cheap, and probably one of the best value RC cars that you can get. So it's got a 29cc petrol engine. As you can see, compared to the Raminator, it's pretty big. It's two-wheel drive, but guys, you're not going to believe the price. So I'm going to put a link to this car down below. It comes with a tune pipe, and oh my God, that is so loud. It makes old people angry. So we've got double wishbone suspension, front and rear, got metal chassis under there, and I think they copied it from the HBI one, so all the parts should fit. And there's other ones like King Motor and other ones, and they all sort of share similar parts. So parts availability for these, you can find parts everywhere. Now, up there is a short wheelbase Rowan, and I can't be bothered to get it down. Hold on. Maybe if we stand on here, get you up there, you can have a look at it. I cannot be bothered to move everything to get it down, but it's exactly the same. It's just a shorter wheelbase. And the reason I would recommend the long one over the short one is the longer one, I would say, handles better, and also it's about half the price. So it was last time I looked anyway. Oh, and look, here we have the Traxxas Summit. That one I will get down. So the Summit is very similar to an e-Revo, but they've made it a little bit more capable. So if you look at the body clips, I added these Arrma little tie down things. It keeps all your body clips safe, stops you losing them. So this I actually upgraded with a Castle 6S brushless combo. I did a video on this very recently, so if you want to know all the info on this, guys, check that video out a few videos ago. Normally it comes with a brushed motor, and in that form it is relatively slow. So what makes this car so special? So we have locking differentials just like on the TRX4, so the front and the rear diff, you can lock it with a click on the switch on the transmitter. Also, we have a high and a low gear transmission. So you have a low gear for crawling and then a high gear for bashing. And now with the brushless power, it's actually pretty quick. And I think I've made it a bit too quick because we already blew out the rear diff. So we're going to have to try and find an upgrade to make the diffs last a little bit longer. So these are the chargers that I use. This was the first one that I got, the Dynamite Profit. You can't get it anymore, but now you can get the ProTech Prodigy, or Prodigy, whatever you call it. Same charger, different name. And in here is where I keep all my LiPos. Oh, and I almost forgot, down here we've got more RC cars, more helicopters and stuff like that, but I think we're going to leave that for the next video. Up here we've got more stuff as well, but that's going to be for the next video too. We've got loads of wheels and tyres, loads of Banggood specials here, more Banggood specials, another Banggood special, another Banggood special. Oh, here we've got an Arrma Granite, and there we've got an Arrma Senton. More Banggood specials, more Banggood specials, more Banggood specials. All these cars along here, these are all Banggood specials. And from up here, we also get a view of the monster truck. So part number 4 is going to be Banggood special episode.